So very good morning to all of you. Here we are starting with the news analysis for 15th of October. So yesterday we saw this that Prime Minister he has launched this passenger ferry service, which is beginning after 40 years between India and Sri Lanka. So firstly, the location of these two ports, it becomes important. The names is Nagapattinam Port in India in Tamil Nadu and Kanke Port in Tamil Nadu. So this basically it would be enhancing economic and further our diplomatic ties. So herein enhanced connectivity, it was bringing people of India and Sri Lanka closer. And this was at the international launch of this high-speed passenger ferry services between Nagapattinam, which is on eastern coast of Tamil Nadu, and Kanke is in the northern province of Sri Lanka. So we can again spot their exact locations on the map as well. So the name of the ferry is the Cheriapani. It can traverse the distance in 4 hours. So via this, basically, हमारे जो people to people ties है, that would be strengthening. And as we say, कि major part of जो earning hai, even for Sri Lanka, that comes through tourism. So this would be again furthering the tourism prospects of the people as well, because this would become again an important medium for the tourists to travel across the two countries. And this is one area where we're trying to further strengthen our relationship. Definitely it is going to be economic relationship as well. And when we talk about its further multiplier effects, so this would be in terms of even hospitality sector at the same time, and generating again more employment opportunities in both the countries. And apart from this, future may we can again come up with more such routes. Then Sikkim's fallen dam haunts India's dreams in Bhutan. So specifically, when we recently saw this disaster, the Glacier Lake outburst disaster happening in Sikkim, so definitely we need to pause and think for a second, ki what is the pattern of development that we've been following? What change is required in our developmental growth pattern? So definitely this haunts our dreams in Bhutan also. तो जब हम बात करते हैं now construction of these hydroelectric power projects, तो the location becomes important. कौन सी location हम choose कर रहे हैं, and we need to again take this thing also into consideration कि future अगर suppose there is any disaster, तो disaster की वजह से क्या impact हो सकता है because of a particular dam which is constructed at a particular site. So Bhutan में जो हमारे again projects है of constructing dams, so we are right now having certain under construction projects as well in Bhutan, which is here we have the examples as well. So these are located in Bhutan, and so this is being funded by India, which will be benefiting the northern and the eastern states in India as well. So even Bhutan, maybe we are seeing कि the projects commissioning, it is being delayed क्योंकि there is movement and subsidence of right bank hill mass in the dam area. So hill subsidence or the land subsidence is again another, इसकी वजह से और disaster, बहुत बड़ा disaster हो सकता है. So इसकी वजह से भी कुछ projects delayed हो रहे हैं. So this was again one thing that was witnessed in Joshimath as well. So why basically we उस point of time पे when we talk about कि क्या causes थे behind land subsidence. So firstly, the when we talk about the construction activities that were not in consonance with taking into consideration the environmental factors. Second was the drainage system and poor construction activities. And then overall, in broader sense, we can also talk about mismanagement of even the tourist and tourist activities. So these were in a way, they hampered the ecology of the environment of the hilly states, which led to land subsidence. And again, the area didn't become safer for human habitations, and people had to evacuate. They had to be evacuated from that particular area. So even now in construction of dams, we are seeing कि जो location choose की गई थी, there we are seeing land subsidence. So these are different factors. So is there any other alternative of constructing dams? Is there any other solution? So we can again think of that also. So this is all from this topic. So 2036 Olympics will be hosted by India. So Prime Minister, he confirms India's bid to host 2036 Olympics. Yes, Achal, you can add up your point when we are discussing this particular topic. So as a solution, आप क्या suggest करना चाह रहे हो?
मैं बोलना चाह रही हूँ कि हमें मतलब ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम का भी एक इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट होनी चाहिए ताकि हम मतलब पैसेंजर को इंफॉर्मेशन उसके रिगार्डिंग पहले से मिल जाए, तो
Yes,
उससे भी मतलब थोड़ा
transportation
सा ये रेस्क्यू कर पाएंगे हम इनसे. हाँ,
रेस्क्यू नहीं, वी कैन थिंक अबाउट कि प्रिवेंशन में भी इट कैन हेल्प अस. जब हम टूरिस्ट मैनेजमेंट प्लान की बात करते हैं तो उसमें एक सब पॉइंट आ जाएगा कि ट्रांसपोर्टेशन जो मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम है, ट्रैफिक मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम है, वो मतलब कितने टूरिस्ट, एक जो हम बात करते हैं टूरिस्ट कैपेसिटी ऑफ द हिल स्टेट्स, तो उसको डिटरमाइन करने के लिए जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सिस्टम है दैट कैन प्ले एन इम्पोर्टेंट रोल.
यस.
ओके, so here we see कि Prime Minister, he underlined the significance of IOC session taking place in the country after 40 years and also informed the audience about India's victory against, okay, this was yesterday, the match which India won against Pakistan. So India, basically, we bid to host 2036 Summer Olympics and become only the 4th Asian country to host the games. So Durga Puja, it is now one of the grand festivals in Uttar Pradesh as well. So most often it comes from the state of West Bengal. So here we are seeing ki this can be one of the positive impacts of the out migrating population that we are seeing. The even celebration of the festival and obviously practicing of the traditional practices and the culture. So this leads to this can be again one of the outcomes of internet penetration as well to the interiors of different states. So even people, they are basically participating in such types of festivals. So this has become one of the important mediums also of strengthening again our unity, and which plays important role even in our communal harmony. And इसकी वजह से definitely employment opportunities को भी boost मिलता है when we talk about certain festivals. So economically also it becomes important. So we are seeing the beginning of even the Sera festivities, which is a blend of history, culture. So it will be beginning today. So here we have specifically, this is celebrated massively in states like Karnataka. So slice of royal orient, it will unfold to a sea of humanity as the famous Mysuru Dasera to be held from 15th of October. So it will display the rich heritage of Karnataka with its seamless blend of history, culture, and tradition. So this is a custom which spans centuries, and it extends to the days of Vijayanagar Empire, whose reign spanned nearly 300 years from the 14th to the mid-17th centuries. And this mantle was inherited by the Vadiyars of Mysuru, who carried forward this cultural practice. So it has been basically happening since the Vijayanagar Empire times. So even when we talk about अभी जो हम front page पे discuss कर रहे थे launch of ferry service from India to Sri Lanka. So this is a blow to Lakshadweep. How? Let's understand that. So launch of this new ferry service, it has the islanders of Lakshadweep feeling shortchanged as it has further worsened their transportation woes. So islanders, they had been clamoring for more passenger vessels for inter-island transportation, where this jo ferry thi, it is the Cheriyappa. It is a high-speed ferry with the capacity to carry 150 passengers. It was taken out of service within the island group, and it was launched for this particular ferry service between India and Sri Lanka. So this is basically, it has been shifted from Lakshadweep to this particular project. So herein, again, the islanders of Sri Lanka, they have to go through the inconvenience when it comes to transportation between different islands. So high-speed ferries are the ones that would ply to the farthest island in the group, which is the Minicoy Island, which is located in Lakshadweep. So these apart, there are just 3 intra-island ferries which are left and which are operating in this island group, but they are not clear to operate to the mainland or to the Minicoy Island. So herein, definitely we need to take this thing also into consideration, so we can again go ahead when it comes to infrastructural development and ensuring that adequate amount of ferry services are available even for the islanders of Lakshadweep. So when we talk about the funding regarding the NGOs, so we see, firstly, we have this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act to regulate the funds that these NGOs receive. So some FCRA listed NGOs, they fail to show the right area of work. Basically, they fail to show कि वो जो funds उनको receive हुए, उन्होंने उसको कहाँ use किया. So basically, there is lack of transparency and accountability. So with this, the apprehensions of misusage of those funds increases. So official numbers jo hai, they reveal only a part of the picture. As some organizations, they have faith-based underpinnings also, and they're registered under other categories. So yahan pe bhi we are seeing mismatch and the possibility of, again, exploiting the loopholes which are existing there. तो Home Ministry says कि जो amendments है to the FCRA Act in 2020 जो किए गए, it prevented the misuse of funding. So कुछ हद तक definitely this act has played a very important role, because somewhere it was also seen in few instances कि जो funds थे, they were even used to polarize the society, to radicalize the society, and again create more communal tensions. So this was one thing which was again targeted by this particular FCRA Act. So registration under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010, ये mandatory है NGOs के लिए जो again donations receive करते हैं from outside India. So उनके लिए registration is mandatory, और जो NGOs and associations, they must have a definite cultural, economic, educational, religious, or social programs, and they can register under multiple categories. So जो act है, it aims at regulating both the acceptance also, and again आप funds को कैसे utilize कर रहे हो, and foreign hospitality also. So it is not just कि it would be regulating कि कौन से NGOs कहाँ से funds receive कर रहे, but it would be also focusing upon कि वो funds कहाँ utilize किए गए. So herein we see कि it can prohibit, under this act, it can prohibit the organizations from taking in these funds for any activities. अगर ये सामने आते, we get the evidence कि जो funds है, they'll be used for the activities which would be detrimental to the national interest. And 2023 में 4 FCRA registrations cancel भी की गई on the grounds of violation. They are all of Christian organizations जिनके registrations cancel किए गए. These are the names of those 4 organizations. So it was found कि जो last 2 organizations हैं, they were involved in religious conversion and building of churches in Jammu region with the funds. So that's how basically the funds, they are misused. So September.
एक क्वेश्चन ये भी हो सकता है कि
Yes, you can raise
आई एम
your.
सेइंग दैट कि यहाँ पे ये भी हो सकता है कि हम ये सोच सकते हैं कि एनजीओ के पास और क्या क्या इश्यूज हो सकते हैं, कि मतलब उनको फंडिंग के अलावा क्या इश्यूज वहाँ पे अराइज हो सकते हैं.
हाँ, तो और
apart from this topic
हो सकते हैं. If you can put up some points, क्या और बाकी issues हो सकते हैं majorly NGOs के लिए? Like major जो issue है वो funding का ही है.
हाँ, तो वो ट्रांसपेरेंसी आई थिंक उससे मेंटेन करने के लिए मेन तो यही है कि लैक ऑफ ट्रांसपेरेंसी होती है, तो
हाँ,
उसके लिए
तो
हम क्या
proper-
फिर solution रख सकते हैं?
सोल्यूशन यही है ना, एफसीआरए एक्ट इज अ सोल्यूशन फॉर दैट। अब एफसीआरए एक्ट में भी अकॉर्डिंगली कुछ अमेंडमेंट्स करनी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाएंगी, जैसे वी विल बी हैविंग द चैलेंजेस इन ऑर्डर टू कि आइडेंटिफिकेशन में अगर हमें कुछ प्रॉब्लम आ रही है तो हेयर वी कैन यूज टेक्नोलॉजी, वी कैन अगेन यूज कि दीज एनजीओज दे नीड टू डिस्क्लोज हाउ दे आर यूजिंग दोज फंड्स via the electronic medium, so that again उसमें कुछ ऐसे amendments या उनको manipulate ना किया जा सके. So we can take the help of technology over here in order to again for the NGOs to remain more transparent and accountable for their activities. And इसके अलावा when we talk about even political interference can play an important role जब हम बात करते हैं even issues for the NGOs. तो जब उनके registration की हम बात करते हैं तो वहाँ पे थोड़ा बहुत political interference आ सकता है, so we need to ensure कि वो politically influenced decisions ना लिए जाएं.
और एक ये होता है लैक ऑफ कोऑर्डिनेशन भी हो जाता है समटाइम्स ना, कि तो वो भी एक इशू है, मतलब चैलेंज है
हाँ.
एनजीओस का इंडिया में, और पुअर
ऑब्जेक्ट.
नेटवर्किंग है, तो वही हम्म
ठीक है. और यहाँ पे एनजीओ का कहना भी है कि सिविल सोसाइटी ग्रुप है. आंचल आप म्यूट पे हो जाओ, शोर आ रहा है अभी. कुछ आपको रेज करना हो तो आप बोल सकते हो. सो एनजीओ का कहना ये कि दे हैव सेड कि जो एफसीआरए प्रोविजंस हैं दे वर बीइंग यूज्ड टू स्टिफल द नॉन प्रॉफिट सेक्टर. सो बेसिकली यही है कि ऑब्जेक्टिविटी से थिंग्स दे नीड टू बी कैरिड आउट as far as the NGOs and regulating their activities is concerned. So role of civil society organizations भी बहुत important एक aspect है. So when it comes to good governance, so role of NGOs is very important because they are working at the ground level. So they are very well aware and they are connected with the local problems. So identification of अगर हमें problems करना है तो therein NGOs they can play an important role, and when it comes to even delivery of different schemes and services and the features or different policies that we have, so therein also NGOs they can play an important catalyst role in terms of even identifying the beneficiaries and ensuring कि जो benefits हैं they are reaching the potential and the right beneficiaries. So here we have as a case study a journey of unity, patriotism, and adventure. So it turned out to be a journey of unity, patriotism, and adventure, said the Colonel Ranveer Singh Jambal, who is the director of the National Institute of Mountaineering and Adventure Sports, which is called NIMAS, who led the Har Shikhar Tiranga mission, which was an expedition to host national flag on the highest peak of every state in India. So it was successfully carried out. So, however, this is a political statement, but when we look at only this particular aspect, key failure to mitigate the problems faced by women. So we need to identify key what are the major problems which are faced by women. So Center has turned women into symbols in a patriarchal framework. So she basically, Sonia Gandhi, she urges the parties belonging to the opposition bloc, which is India, to take urgent steps to make women's equality a reality. And there is a need for immediate implementations of the Women's Quota Act. So recently we saw in the parliament women's reservation bill that was passed, but uske around bhi kuch challenges hai when it comes to the implementation, and that is कि अगर हमारे पास census latest census data नहीं होगा, that is again that has been put to hold कि 2026 के बाद जो first census रहेगा उसका data use किया जाएगा. तो that is a problem. We'll have to wait for next few years in order to ensure कि जो act के provisions है वो implement हो, despite we are seeing कि 3 to 4 decades of delay of passing of this act. उसके बाद भी we'll have to wait almost another one more decade. So this is one apprehension when we talk about और क्या problems है जो women face कर रही है. So we can divide this into different spheres like economic, social, cultural, historically कुछ reasons हो सकते हैं political area में. So firstly political representation of late ये bill pass हुआ है when we talk about the political representation of women. So parliament में women MPs they comprise only 14% of their share. So that needs to be increased, and local level पे women they enjoy the benefit of the reservation in the gram panchayats, but there are also certain issues crop up, like when we talk about the issue of sarpanch pati. So their capabilities somewhere they're still not trusted. So herein we need that behavioral change. However, we are seeing that change, but still jo pace of change hai, that is very slow. So we need to trust the capabilities of women, their abilities and their skills, be it in any domain or like even if it is about politics. Then role of women in leadership, that is also important when we talk about successful women entrepreneurs. So they can be again great inspiration for all the women, and not just women, but even for the entire community. Apart from this, when we talk about the health sector, so nutritional security is one of the major concerns when we talk about the women health, because then again, it is connected with the health of the child, and somewhere it will be also impacting the quality of the demographic dividend at the same time. Apart from this, when we talk about the economic opportunities, so therein also we have this problem of glass ceiling, which is faced by women. So it is important to ensure कि जो women की skilling and reskilling वाला aspect है, we focus on that also, and therein also women they can come up, and specifically employment sector में different sector की अगर हम बात करें, as we talk about the Startup India mission or जो campaign हमारे पास है, we definitely therein also women they can play an important role even in the innovative industry or the in terms of innovations. Apart from this, जब हम STEM की बात करते हैं, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, so therein India basically compare जब हम करते हैं India की position with the different global countries, so therein also we're seeing कि India is ahead of other countries. So women representation, the participation in STEM courses, that is increasing in India. So that is also a sign of how even women they are choosing the highly skilled or these so-called ऐसे areas जहाँ पे we saw male domination. And definitely कुछ ऐसी case studies भी हैं जब हम बात करते हैं women taking up the leadership or the difficult roles or taking up the leadership positions, leading positions in the male dominated sectors. So be it now the defense forces, when we saw the permanent commission being given to women. So these are some of the areas where we are seeing women coming and taking the lead. But जो pace of change है, we need to ensure कि that is increased, and इसमें सबसे ज़्यादा community participation, cooperation, their support, change in their mindset is very important. So Achal, do you want to add up here something कि और कोई problem या कोई और ऐसा मतलब अच्छा example जो आपको share करना हो?
मेन तो इसमें ये है कि जो एजुकेशन है वो सबसे बड़ा रोल प्ले करेगी टू ब्रिंग द सोशल चेंज. तो मेन तो उसको वही प्रमोट करना चाहिए, उसी से ही बिहेवियरल चेंज भी आएगा, माइंडसेट भी चेंज होगा. तो ग्राउंड लेवल पे तो मतलब मेनली यही है कि एजुकेशन सबसे पहले इम्प्रूवमेंट करेगी. सो हियर जस्ट आई वांट टू
सारी चीजें इंटरकनेक्टेड है. तो एजुकेशन से बेसिकली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इवन हाउ गर्ल चाइल्ड इज ब्रॉट अप, तो अपब्रिंगिंग में भी अगर हम चेंजेस करेंगे तो दैट वुड बी अगेन it can bring a massive behavioral change in the societal level. So education services में we are seeing yes support किया जा रहा है when we talk about the बेटी बचाओ बेटी पढ़ाओ आंदोलन also. तो वहाँ पे भी we are seeing some positive changes happening even in the mindset of the rural people also. So yes, good point put up by you. Education sector is also an important aspect where we need to focus more. So street vendors के लिए we had this PM Swanidhi scheme जो announce की गई थी, and उसके बाद भी street vendors they still feel vulnerable after COVID-19 despite जो government loans available है उनके पास. So PM Swanidhi scheme becomes important, and there is also Street Vendors Act 2014. which was passed in 2014. So यहाँ पे भी this is to protect their livelihood and regulation of the street vending. So, but despite all these measures which are available, they still feel vulnerable. So they are one of the most vulnerable sections of society, both economically and socially, and they're facing the brunt of poverty and administrative neglect, especially after the pandemic. So administrative neglect is one of the very important point जो highlight किया गया through this article. So administrative neglect में when we talk about access to the financial services and even जो उनकी livelihood opportunities है, this is not something very reliable. मतलब it is temporary in nature. जो उनका setup होता है that is very temporary. They don't have any as such permanent location. So ये कुछ again factors है जो उनको negatively impact करते हैं. It is very difficult for them to rely on such livelihood options. So if they would be having कुछ ऐसी employment opportunities where they can work permanently, so that would help us in even reducing their reliance upon such livelihood opportunities which are temporary in nature. So यहाँ पे role of gig economy can also come into the play. It can be important, but firstly again uske liye bhi they need to be skilled. So herein skilling them becomes very important. And when we again talk about the role of civil society organizations like we have SEWA, which is Self-Employed Women's Association. So for the past 20 years, SEWA, it has been a part of volunteer for again जहाँ पे women को ज़्यादा employment opportunities provide करने की कोशिश की जाती है by this organization. So it is a 51-year-old trade union that works among women, including street vendors. So यहाँ पे again role of civil society organizations also becomes important. So administrative neglect में role of government is very important. Gig economy, its role is very important. And यहाँ पे जो बात आती है पीएम स्वानिधि स्कीम की, तो दे आर गिविंग दैट फाइनेंशियल बेनिफिट उनको मिल रहा है टू रीस्टार्ट देयर बिजनेसेस आफ्टर कोविड-19. तो ये मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव था ऑफ दिस स्कीम. बट अब बात आती है कि उस अमाउंट को आपको रीपे भी करना है, तो उनके लिए 10,000 अमाउंट बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट है व्हेन इट कम्स टू इवन रीपेइंग इट बैक. सो उसका टेन्योर जो डिसाइड किया था वो था 1 year टेन्योर के अंदर दे हैड टू रिटर्न बैक रीपे ₹10,000 विद एन एनहांस्ड लोन ऑफ 20,000 and 50,000 in the second and the third tranches अगर they are able to repay it within 1 year. So ये कुछ again limitations and conditions impose किए गए थे, तो उनको again रीपे करना एक बहुत बड़ा टास्क है, इंश्योरिंग की जो again बेसिक नीड्स हैं वो उनको भी फुलफिल करे उसी हैंडफुल अमाउंट ऑफ मनी में जो वो डेली बेसिस पे अर्न कर रहे हैं. So we can have, a dedicated area in a city or in a town or even in the rural areas, जहाँ पे street vendors, even if they want to continue with their occupation, so they can have their, a dedicated and fixed location, and obviously they'll not have to, be worried about all these things. उसके अलावा even their safety is very important, and then also ensuring the social security benefits for them, that is also important. So different pockets can be created in the areas where they can work. So center seeks inclusion of traditional medicine on the WHO's list. So center seeks the inclusion of traditional medicine on WHO's list. So in a move which is meant to put the Indian system of medicine on the world map and provide it with a common standardized language, the Union government has sought the inclusion of Ayurveda and related systems in the 11th revision of WHO International Classification of Diseases as a second module of the supplementary chapter on traditional medicine conditions. So we are again seeing key importance of the traditional medicines and that is being focused specifically by even WHO also. So traditional medicines का जो industry है या जो developments है India में, they are like massive. So we are having even a dedicated ministry of Ayush for that. So even to aid the research also, the traditional medicine sector जो even हमारी Indian traditional knowledge system है, that plays an important role. So Ayurveda and related Indian traditional healthcare systems, they are firmly recognized and widely practiced healthcare systems in India, which is making a strong and valid point for its inclusion. Then Chinese medicines की हम बात करें तो after a decade of repeated consultations, the ICD-11 had facilitated inclusion of Module 1, which covers traditional medicine conditions originating in ancient China, which are now commonly used in China, Japan, Korea, and elsewhere around the world. So even Indian traditional medicines, they also need to be a part of this list. So they can definitely play an important role even when we talk about the preventive care of healthcare services, because India may we see that we are not focusing upon the preventive healthcare, we focus more on curative healthcare. So therein also, when it comes to strengthening or boosting our immunity, so traditional medicines, they hold significance. Apart from this, we are also seeing the rising number of non-communicable diseases. So therein also, the traditional medicines that they can play an important role in reducing the number of such patients who are diagnosed with the non-communicable diseases. So we are again जब Russia-Ukraine war की हम बात करते हैं, because of late we are seeing कि situation is unstable in Israel, so हमारा focus ज़्यादा Israel की तरफ shift हो गया था. But again, Russia-Ukraine war, it is still intensifying, heated fighting in Avdiivka as Russia tries to surround the city. So Moscow shoots down 2 drones over the Black Sea. So from the perspective of location, even the location of Israel surrounding countries, that is important. And herein, in the context of Russia-Ukraine also, the location becomes important. So Afghanistan में अभी हमने देखा of late there was an earthquake of the magnitude 6.3 on the Richter scale, but इस earthquake की वजह से एक और same intensity का earthquake occur हुआ. So how that happened, we are basically trying to understand that. So the first shallow focus earthquake जो 6.3 magnitude का था, which occurred near the far western terminus of the Hindu Kush mountain range in Afghanistan, definitely बहुत devastating था. It was followed by another 6.3 magnitude earthquake 30 minutes later. So even from the perspective of disaster management, also specifically when we know कि कौन से areas they lie in the high seismic zone, so specifically वहाँ पे it is very important when we talk about disaster preparedness, specifically from the perspective of earthquakes. So 3 earthquakes occurred as a result of the thrust faulting. So thrust faulting, again, geographical concept, or when we talk about shifting of the plate tectonics. So this is one type of how plates they can shift. So twin earthquakes, 7th October को it killed around 2,500 people, injured more than 2,000 people. So thrust faulting was the main reason, जिसकी वजह से second earthquake reoccur हुआ after 30 minutes near the far western terminus of the Hindu Kush mountain range. So again, we need to spot कि Hindu Kush mountain range, it lies in which all countries. So as a rule, जो magnitude of aftershocks रहते हैं after a high intensity earthquake, it is always lesser than the main event, जो first event of earthquake होता है. But इस case में जो second earthquake आया, that was of same intensity. And it is likely to have happened when the release of stress at one point in the fault, it resulted in loading of the stress at another location in the same fault. So this could be one of the possibilities. So loading of stress, it can result in another earthquake, which can be of similar or even higher magnitude, but never smaller than the first earthquake. So again, it makes the situation a little more riskier. So यहाँ पे when we even talk about okay, so यहाँ पे we have that earthquakes are quite common in Afghanistan due to the active interactions between three tectonic plates. So location of even tectonic plates, India कौन सी tectonic plate के ऊपर located है, surrounding कौन सी plate tectonics है, that is one area that needs to be क्लियर. सो यहाँ पे अगर हम बात करते हैं अफगानिस्तान रीजन की, तो 3 टेक्टोनिक प्लेट्स हैं which actively interact with each other, which includes Arabia, Eurasia and India plates. So earthquakes जो वेस्टर्न और सेंट्रल अफगानिस्तान में होते हैं, they are primarily influenced by the northward movement of the Arabia plate relative to the Eurasia plate. So even ये इतनी minutely हमें clarity होना important है, because such types of questions they are asked in prelims. So northward movement of Arabia plate की वजह से relative to the Eurasian plate we see most of the earthquakes happening in western and central Afghanistan. सो आंचल जो आप पॉइंट रेज कर रहे हो कि जीपीएस और कंप्यूटिंग टेक्नोलॉजी हम यूज कर सकते हैं टू कंट्रोल अर्थ प्रोसेसेस, तो जीपीएस टेक्नोलॉजी इंटरनल जो प्लेट टेक्टोनिक मूवमेंट्स हो रही हैं उसको मॉनिटर करने में हमें हेल्प नहीं करेगा, वो जस्ट हमें ओवर द सर्फेस ऑफ अर्थ हाउ बेसिकली द लोकेशन इज चेंजिंग, स्पेसिफिकली व्हीकुलर लोकेशंस या और किसी ऐसी चीज की फिजिकल ऑब्जेक्ट की लोकेशन ट्रैक करने में हमें हेल्प कर सकते हैं. तो this would be only limited up to the surface of the earth. उसके अलावा जब हम disaster preparedness की बात करते हैं for the earthquakes, so obviously the India के context में specifically the building code that we have, so that needs to be adhered to, and उसमें भी कुछ changes अगर किए जाने चाहिए when it comes to what type of building practices we need to adhere to so as to ensure कि suppose there is an earthquake of high intensity, so there is least possible damage and we're able to save maximum lives. So that is one thing. And when it comes to even the mock drills, so periodically we need to conduct the mock drills at the same time. The people residing in different buildings, they need to be aware about ki kya plan of action rahega if there is an earthquake. So यहाँ पे again कुछ factual details भी mentioned है, like जो shallower crustal earthquakes होते हैं in the Pamir Hindu mountains, it occurs primarily along the main Pamir thrust and other active quaternary faults which accommodate much of the region's crustal shortenings. So you need to even locate कि जो main Pamir thrust कहाँ located है, what is it. So this is again a factual concept. So we'll continue in part 2 of this video.